What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. This video is Clementine's story is a heartbreaking masterpiece, The Walking Dead game by JoshuaTXI, and this video is suggested by Jake Reinhardt. So thank you, man, for the suggestion. If you guys have any other suggestions, please put them on my posts on my channel or in the video description below. Let's get into it, because this is going to be a lengthy video. But I have played every season of The Walking Dead, but this video is going to get in depth of Clementine's story, so let's get into it.
Clementine stands among the most iconic and masterfully written characters in gaming history. She's a legendary figure who broke boundaries and cemented Telltale's place in the industry's Hall of Fame. Yet, for all of her fame, so much of her story remains overlooked, with layers and nuances that many have missed. It's finally time to unpack nearly a decade of storytelling for a character brilliantly brought to life by the incredible Melissa Hutchison. Without further ado, I present to you my definitive Clementine essay. Please enjoy.
Let's go. I remember the first time I played this game. I played it, I think, a month or two after it came out, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't remember when it released, but I did play it a month or two after it released.
Abandoned, alone and terrified. That's the state Clementine is in when we first meet her. What many overlook is that Clementine enters the story already burdened by tragedy. At just 8 years old, she never got to say goodbye to her parents. She barricaded herself in a treehouse, watching helplessly as the world collapsed around her, a silent witness to the horrors of the undead. At the same time, Lee Everett, a convicted man on borrowed time, crosses her path as if by fate.
That's gotta be the worst thing in the world, being eight years old and basically losing everything.
Lee becomes Clementine's unlikely savior, a guardian whose presence alone spares her from...
I think that's why people kind of gravitate towards her, is because they put themselves in her situation, and they're like, oh god, this kid has gone through so much, so protect at all costs.
Certain doom. He may just be some guy, but without him, Clementine's story would never have been told. From the very beginning, their bond sets the stage for a moving tale of innocence and redemption, proving that even those condemned by society can still wash the blood from their hands. Under Lee's protection, Clementine becomes the heart of every choice and moral dilemma. Each shelter they find reflects Lee's growing realization that fatherhood in this world demands impossible decisions. The choices Lee faces, like deciding whether to save a child or an adult, are rarely simple. Season 1's introduction of Kenny, Kotcha and Duck is crucial for Clementine, giving her not the only first friend she'll ever have, but also providing Lee with a mirror in Kenny, a glimpse of what a father is and how love can lead to devastating mistakes. The choice to save Duck and the heated confrontation in the drugstore are moments centered on the fragile concept of innocence, showing how quickly it can be lost. When Clementine is attacked there, it's a stark lesson that even minor...
You can see it throughout the seasons. I don't know why I'm slouching. I need to stop slouching. But you can see it through the seasons as you progress. Even through this season, you can kind of see... What is it? How easy it was to manipulate her. And you'll see why later on in this video, but I think Clementine learns from that and evolves
conflicts can spiral into life or death chaos. If you haven't noticed yet, Clementine's humanity and realism shine through in how deeply vulnerable she remains, even when the player feels safe. Your role as Lee becomes that of her protector and surrogate father, sharing your past in the hope she'll understand and survive. These intense moments in the first episode set the stage for Clementine's evolving role.
You can also see that in the first season, you can see that she doesn't really understand what's going on, in a sense. Like, she knows bad shit is happening, but it's not hitting her in the same way, or in the same sense.
In episode 2, Starved for Help. As Clementine and the group grow weaker, every calculated risk becomes more dangerous. New characters like Ben test how empathetic you are, and whether Clementine's input holds real weight for you. Situations emerge that reveal whether you value Clementine merely as someone to protect, or as a child with emotional needs that can't be ignored. No villain, not even the Stranger, challenges Lee's fatherly awareness as profoundly as the St. Johns, a family of cannibals who lure the group to their farm under false pretenses. Sharp-eyed players spot unsettling signs in the St. John brothers and notice subtle hints of danger lurking beneath the surface. In moments of desperation, your choices risk scarring Clementine more deeply than she already is. The events at the farm are pivotal for Clementine. It's the first time seemingly kind people who appear generous and welcoming turn on her, teaching her the brutal lesson that misplaced trust can get you killed. It's also a reminder that Lee, and
Give me 1 second, y'all. We are back.
by extension the player, can and will make mistakes. The core questions become, do you trust these strangers and why? And if they betray you, do you kill the St. Johns in front of Clementine as an act of revenge? I can't stress this enough. Episode 2 is one of the most critical chapters for Clementine.
What did y'all do? Did you show the reality of the world to Clementine, or did you try to hide her from it?
It marks the beginning of her losing hope and questioning the people around her. A shift highlighted when the group comes across a seemingly abandoned car loaded with supplies. Even if Lee and the group vote to take the goods, Clementine finally finds her own voice, insisting that stealing is wrong. The events of this episode transform Clementine from a silent, dependent child into a character with her own moral compass. She's no longer simply dead weight waiting for Lee's guidance. By episode 3, Clementine has begun shifting from innocent to troubled, while Lee scrambles to protect her innocence. A deal made with bandits by Ben forces violence on the group once again.
Don't get me started with Ben.
Lily kills Carly or Doug and can be abandoned. Duck, her only friend, is bitten, and Clementine starts demanding truth, not comfort. It's here that Lee faces a reckoning from his protector Mirror, Kenny, and the newly observant Chuck. If Clementine doesn't learn to defend herself, she will die. The band-aid of comfort must be ripped off completely.
I think Chuck played a vital moment in Lee's story as well, because he could see Lee wasn't really preparing her the right way. It seemed like he was kind of coddling her in a sense.
Taught to shoot a gun, cut her hair, and face the brutal reality that her parents might truly be gone. Around this time, Clementine turns 9 and faces her toughest year yet. Manipulated by the Stranger, she unwittingly gives away crucial information. While the world around her collapses, the bitter arguments you were warned to avoid consume Lee's daily life. In that chaos, Clementine confides in what seemed like a friendly voice, a betrayal she'll never forget. Yet even after this, Clementine stands firm in her convictions. She demands to be taken to Crawford, votes for Ben to stay in the group, and refuses to simply roll over. For a child so young in
even though Ben was causing not all the issues, but very serious ones.
A merciless world, it raises the question of whether protecting innocence was ever a realistic goal at all. It's not until episode 4 that everything takes an even darker turn. Clementine goes missing, abducted by the stranger, and Lee is bitten. Although it's not her fault, the information she gave indirectly leads to Lee's death. With only borrowed time remaining and Clementine's fate unknown, Lee sets out to find her and ultimately succeeds. Season 1 is a relentless gauntlet of trauma. The stranger emerges as a twisted mirror to Clementine's journey, questioning whether Lee's choices truly protected her or only doomed her further. With time running out, Lee faces a harrowing decision.
I mean, by the end, I feel like he finally realizes the damage he was doing during the earlier seasons, and he you can see that during his final moments. Like you could tell that he knows he's made mistakes on how he was, I went kind of raising her, but also preparing her for what the world has become and what the world is. So yeah, you can see it in his face, the way he's talking.
Kill the stranger himself or let Clementine pull the trigger. A moment that becomes the final nail in the coffin for her innocence. Here, Clementine transforms from troubled to into the fire. A shift made even more devastating by the confirmed deaths of her parents. Her worst nightmares come true all at once. There's no way to save Lee, as the infection overtakes him. Clementine, for the first time in the story, is truly alone. She struggles and panics, but does what she must. She secures the building where Lee is now trapped. And what she couldn't do for her parents, she finally does for Lee. A final goodbye, an acknowledgement of the love and bond they shared. In the end, Clementine is left with one last choice: to leave Lee behind or grant his wish and end his life herself. Season 1 is the...
That was the moment where when she killed that zombie, that's when she lost her innocence, but that killing a human being was the nail in the coffin.
Story of not just a...
Even if he wanted her to do it, it was still the nail in the coffin.
Traumatized girl, but a repeatedly traumatized girl, struggling to find her voice. It's a harsh lesson that even those who dedicate their lives to protecting her may not always be there or succeed. But Clementine is strong. She's learned so much throughout her journey. How to defend herself, be cautious about whom she trusts, and rely on her instincts. She's safe for now from repeating Duck's fate, yet she's still just a child who's had everything ripped
Sorry if you're hearing noises in the background, guys.
Away from her. It's heartbreaking and brutal. Season 1 is a masterpiece and always will be. But Clementine's story isn't over. She still has Omid and Krista to find. In the final shot, we see her mourning alone, only to glimpse two figures walking in the distance. A new beginning awaits her, even as her world crumbles around her. And so, Season 1 ends where it began, with innocence shattered, but Clementine still standing.
Chapter 2, Into the Fire.
For the first time, Clementine becomes the protagonist, and the game pulls no punches. Her very first action is a clumsy mistake, failing to keep track of her belongings, leading to a brutal wake-up call.
Which I kind of like about the progression of the story, because it shows that, you know, she's still growing up, so she'll be clumsy like that and all that. But the thing is in this world you cannot be, you know, careless or clumsy, or, you know, because it is a matter of life or death.
Mead is killed almost immediately, and Krista is left devastated. Time passes, and we see a more mature but also more depressed and withdrawn Clementine. No one has stepped in to fill Lee's role, and whether she realizes it or not, this is the season where she begins to learn that sometimes being alone is safer than relying on others. Krista, despite doing her best, ultimately ends up dead trying to protect Clementine. Bandits attack, forcing Clementine to flee once again. She finds herself completely alone, wandering through forests littered with death. In a desperate bid for companionship, she befriends a stray dog only to be viciously attacked, adding another trauma to her growing list and leaving her closer than ever to dying. By sheer luck, she's saved by a new group, the Cabin Group, consisting of Luke, Rebecca, Elvin, Nick, and Pete. But at its core, it's just a
This group, there were a lot of people that annoyed me.
repeat of what came before. These archetypes mirror characters from season 1. The screw-up, the father figure, the humanitarian, the hardened pregnant woman. But this time they're even more inept. Early on, Clementine is locked in a shed because a doctor can't distinguish a dog bite from a walker bite. Refusing to wait for help, she takes matters into her own hands, stitching up her own wound in a painful, powerful show of independence.
How can you not tell the difference between a human bite or a walker bite and a dog bite?
A strength
but you're a doctor?
From everything Lee taught her. Despite being injured, she manages to kill a walker on her own. And
you see how much emphasis he put on doctor?
Through it all, Clementine insists on one truth. She's still
not bitten.
This new group, however, hides a dark secret. They're refugees fleeing a brutal dictator named Carver, who relentlessly pursues them. Along the road, Clementine crosses paths with a familiar face, none other than
Kenny.
His return becomes a pivotal force in her story, shifting Clementine's development yet again. Now she's not only learning how to survive alone, but grappling with the question of who she even wants by her side. There's no sugarcoating it. Clementine's voice in season 2 is frequently ignored. More often than not, she's treated as a tool or pawn, maneuvered by adults who think they know better. Yet it's Carver who forces Clementine to dig deepest into her inner strength. His rule is built on lies, intimidation, and manipulative rhetoric, and at multiple points he tries to lure her onto his side. Players can respond in different ways, calling Carver out directly and wishing him dead, or even attempting to manipulate him back. But a man like Carver, who viciously beats Kenny and pushes him toward the brink of insanity, can't be confronted head-on, at least not yet. Eventually, Carver's fate catches up with him. Clementine can stand by.
A dude like that can't be confronted until he has nobody by his side.
As Kenny savagely,
even then, he's so ignorant to the point where you can't even convince him.
He beats him to death. A moment that marks the first time she witnesses pure evil being decisively eliminated. But the cycle of violence never ends. Soon after Carver's death, Sarita is bitten, pushing Kenny even further into despair. Into this chaos steps Jane, a hardened lone survivor carrying deep abandonment issues. From that point forward, navigating the tension between Kenny and Jane becomes Clementine's central conflict. conflict. The real question of Season 2 is this: who do you want Clementine to become? Jane advocates cold self-preservation, believing attachments only drag people down. Kenny, in contrast, remains fiercely loyal to the idea of family, willing to sacrifice himself for those he loves. The birth of AJ makes this choice even more complicated. Clementine must decide whether to embrace Kenny's ideal of unyielding loyalty or adopt Jane's pragmatism and keep survival her only priority. Season 2's ultimate question is, what beliefs should Clementine carry into adulthood in a world where she's so often overlooked, exploited, and abandoned? Is it wiser to stay with those you know, or go it alone? This feud inevitably implodes. After being shot by Arvo, Clementine regains consciousness to find Kenny and Jane locked in a bitter, violent standoff. Jane has hidden AJ, provoking Kenny's violent rage and shattering his already fragile mental state. Clementine faces one final harrowing choice: shoot Kenny to save Jane, or let Jane die for deceiving him and betraying the trust that defines family bonds. Whichever ending you choose reflects the person you want Clementine to become. If you choose Jane, your Clementine accepts that people can be burdens, but still believes there's strength and safety in even the smallest group. If you choose Kenny, your Clementine prioritizes loyalty above all, staying true to those who would protect her.
Which person did you guys pick to save?
In return. This path also suggests that AJ holds deep significance for her, echoing the paternal role Kenny has tried to fill. If you choose to go alone, you're crafting a Clementine who has decided that everyone is a liability. After being used, overlooked, and betrayed by so many clueless adults, she chooses to face the world alone, even at such a young age. It's a brutally honest outcome that many players ultimately embrace. My personal favourite, as many know, is the Wellington ending. Kenny's arc as a protector and a mirror to Lee comes full circle as he sacrifices himself, and Clementine is finally able to raise AJ in safety. It's a rare moment of peace that reassures them and us that good people do exist, even if they don't stay forever. The crucial fact often overlooked is that Clementine survives no matter what ending. These decisions don't determine whether she lives or dies. They determine who she's becoming. Unlike Season 1, where choices often felt like life or death gambles, Season 2 is less about changing the external world and more about defining Clementine's internal one. It's about what you're willing to tolerate, what you're prepared to risk, and what you truly believe as a person. Through these decisions, we're invited to shape Clementine's journey into adult.
I'm not gonna lie, when I was playing Season 2, I was kind of on autopilot, so I wasn't really knowing or even thinking about what I was doing in that season.
In our own image. Unfortunately, Telltale themselves would go on to undermine much of this character building, which brings us to A New Frontier, a game with moments of brilliance but a season widely regarded as one of the weakest entries, and it clearly reveals how Telltale ultimately saw Clementine as a character. There's no easy way to say this, but in terms of Clementine, Season 3 is a disaster. She gets minimal screen time, and barely impacts the story outside of the ending and a few flashbacks. So it's no surprise she's most people's least favourite version of Clementine. As a standalone game, however, I actually enjoy A New Frontier. It's overhated, though not entirely without reason. I'll keep this section concise and focus only on the major plot points.
I think the reason why a lot of people were indecisive about this season is because of how, at the time, how random it was to introduce a new character when they could have, I would say, continue her story. But I mean, to each their own. I guess they wanted to do something different. They didn't want to, keep it like Season 2. They wanted to add something new, I guess, but I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like they could have done a lot better than they did.
relevant to Clementine. Season 3 follows the Garcias, a family of survivors who spiral into all-out war with a faction known as the New Frontier. Meanwhile, Clementine is trying to protect AJ after the determinate deaths of both Jane and Kenny. And yes, it's genuinely terrible what they did to those characters. At some point, Clementine ends up joining the New Frontier. Through flashbacks, we see her trying to build a life and a bond with AJ. But something's off. AJ barely speaks and is socially stunted, a detail that feels both intentional and tragic. When AJ falls ill,
The thing with AJ is he was born in this world. Clementine kind of grew up in the world, so I mean, she was conscious before the world went to shit. AJ doesn't understand at this time. He doesn't know what's going on, but he is filled with fear.
the New Frontier refuses Clementine further
He knows bad things are happening. He just doesn't understand the bad things.
help, pushing her to the desperate decision of trying to steal medicine for him. As punishment, David, the brother of Javier Garcia, the game's protagonist, kidnaps AJ, separating him from Clementine. Heartbreakingly, AJ's first words are shouting Clem as he's ripped away. In the aftermath, driven partly by revenge and partly by survival, Clementine crosses paths with Javier throughout his journey. This version of Clementine makes it crystal clear that Telltale's newer writers wanted to sever ties with much of the previous cast to tell a fresh story. While they succeed in some respects, the cost is enormous. They completely undermine the final decision of Season 2, effectively forcing Clementine into a lone survivor role no matter which ending you choose. As a result, she emerges brutal and emotionally guarded, unwilling to trust easily. In her most formative years, she's left to navigate the complexities of growing into adulthood, often confiding in an ill-prepared Javier about painful, intimate truths. Despite everything, Clementine doesn't sit idle. During her time away from Javier,
I mean, I could make the argument here with, can you blame her? Look at every adult that she had to deal with before this season. Can you blame her for being to herself?
builds connections in multiple communities, quietly gathering resources and information. By the end of the season, she uses those contacts to pry the truth from Dr. Paul Lingard, and finally learns AJ's whereabouts.
Besides Lee and Kenny, everybody else has used her or blatantly. I would make an argument for Luke as well, but mostly everybody else has just used her or just didn't give a fuck about her.
And undeterred, she sets out immediately to find him, continuing the quest that defines her entire arc within Season 3, focusing on the positive. I think Clementine is portrayed very realistically in the brief moments we see her during Season 3. She's endured tremendous trauma and had the only thing keeping her going, AJ, ripped away from her. She's no longer just a child, but a mother. A single mother battling the same kind of adults who've always overlooked or dismissed her. Her deep distrust is a natural evolution of everything she's survived. And if there's one universal truth, it's this: never take a child away from their mother. Because the Clementine we meet in Season 4 is the embodiment of someone who refuses ever again to lose the person she loves the most.
Out of all the seasons, how would you guys rate it? Let me know. For me personally, I would say Season 1, Season 4, Season 2, then Season 3.
Season 4 is arguably the best chapter in Clementine's journey, because now, with AJ back by her side, she's ready to step fully into the role of a mother and a protector. After years of being cared for by others, it's finally her turn to learn from the mistakes of the adults before her. And
maybe I'm just being biased because I love Lee so much. That's why I put Season 1 above season 4, but
raise AJ into someone strong enough
my
to
opinion.
survive. Right from the start, Clementine is responsible for teaching AJ the basics of survival, how to stay alert, listen carefully, scout new areas, and even where to aim if he has to shoot. But her toughest challenge begins when they're taken to Erickson's school for troubled youth after a violent car crash. There, Clementine must help AJ navigate basic social skills, because the difficulties hinted at in season 3 haven't gone away. AJ remains traumatized and struggles with simple social cues. Yet Clementine is traumatized too, as is everyone at this school. It's a powerful reframe of what society once labelled troubled youth, showing that there's a place for everyone, even Clementine, who was once betrayed and cast out. For the first time, both she and AJ are surrounded by people their own age. However, a dark secret lurks at Erickson's. Marlon, the group's leader, is exposed as a traitor who traded away kids to a militant faction called the Delta. The victims were the sisters of Ten, AJ's first real friend. In a violent confrontation, AJ shoots Marlon while he's surrendering, not fully understanding why what he did was wrong. And this is where the true struggles of motherhood begin. In a world ravaged by violence and loss, Clementine must humanize AJ and guide him through painful questions about life and morality. Everything she suffered has built toward this moment, to go right where others went wrong. Mistake after mistake, Clementine steps up, determined to guide AJ. When the group needs leadership, even those who resent AJ's actions look to her for strength. And for the first time, Clementine finds something deeper than friendship, a budding relationship that brings warmth and hope into her life, whether it's with Lewis or Violet. Another first for her is stepping into true leadership. Once a girl forced to follow orders and run errands, she's now fighting to save her friends' lives. And the villain who emerges from the shadows, none other than Lily from season 1, a child kidnapping evil version of her. The truth is, Clementine,
I think in this season, I was listening. I was just messaging somebody. But I think in this season is a complete 180 from season 3, where she was more to herself. I think as she grew up a little bit more, she realized, oh, I need like a family type of group in order to survive, because when she was by herself, or trying to be by herself in season 3, it wasn't really ending well. And I think that's why she's so adamant about being in a group in this season.
has become what Lee once was, a parental figure carrying the weight of other people's lives. The game makes this clear, even giving us a flashback where Clementine wrestles with uncertainty, still wondering what Lee would do in her place. And realistically, she's still just a child too.
Wow. Just look at you. Just look at you.
Through AJ, the same questions that once shaped Clementine come roaring back. Is it right to torture for information? Do bad people deserve to die? Are walkers truly monsters? Every
Depends on the
mistake
person.
becomes a lesson.
I could argue that Carver, did he really deserve to live? Because he didn't really value human life. So, I mean, in this world, I mean.
As Clementine decides whether AJ deserves trust and responsibility, the game deliberately puts you in the same moral crossroads the adults once faced with Clementine. Will you silence AJ and try to keep him sheltered, or trust him to be strong enough to make hard choices of his own? As the war with the Delta draws to its bloody end, Clementine can even choose whether AJ should kill Lily, a decision that reflects how she views exposing children to violence. It echoes the same dilemma Kenny faced when he murdered Carver, and the choice he forced upon Clementine when she had to decide whether to shoot him. What's brilliant about season...
I think that's what she learned, is because Kenny was willing to show her the reality of the world, whereas Lee, like I said, in the early chapters of season 1, he was very withdrawn on doing that.
4 is how it flips the script, making you question whether the adults in Clementine's past were simply foolish or genuinely torn between impossible choices. AJ
Yeah,
becomes
I mean,
your way of answering.
Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones, in a sense. I mean, like I said, you could see that with Kenny on what he had to do.
Answering those questions. Do you trust the child or not? Do you finally understand why those adults sometimes didn't trust you? Or do you decide that violence...
I would also argue that for AJ, he seems more mature than a kid his age, so you tend to trust his decision making more than a kid his age.
and tragedy are inevitable. And
Because he wasn't withdrawn from, you know, violence or seeing the reality of the world. Because he grew up being in fear, seeing violence, seeing danger. And I think that kind of made him mature in a way.
the child should be prepared to protect themselves, no matter what. When Clementine is bitten, it feels like the ultimate culmination of this entire journey. You are Lee, you are Kenny, you are Jane, and now you're dying. What is your legacy? The game forces you to sit with that question. Maybe your reaction is anger, maybe it's uncontrollable tears. But miraculously, Clementine survives, saved by AJ at the last possible moment. The heartwarming ending ties everything together.
See, leave it to AJ to make the hardest decisions.
Through every hardship, every tear, and every fleeting moment of joy, Clementine makes it.
And I think that's why he's like the best character in the Telltale Walking Dead, is because he did learn from Clementine, because Clementine learned from all these other adults. So she took all these attributes from Lee, Kenny, Jane, Luke, everybody, and she saw what was the wrong thing to do and what was the right thing to do. And she sort of implemented that in her own way of raising AJ.
Proves that children can be protected and that happiness comes from those you choose to keep close. A proud mother who was once a child starving in a treehouse now stands before us, hanging up her iconic hat and choosing to live out her life in a community that finally understands her.
Yeah. Wow. Can I just say, this was a really, really good video. Like, I mean, I've been recording for over half an hour, and man, it felt like 10 minutes to me. Jeez. Really good video.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
But yeah, like I said, really good video. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Jake Reinhardt, for suggesting this video. And I think what this game kind of taught us that family means everything. Because you can see that in season 3 of The Walking Dead, where, like I said, she was more withdrawn and it didn't really work out for her. But when she was with others, yes, bad things happened, but everybody always found a way to persevere. And I think that's the lesson in every season, is like, no matter what happens, as long as you have family, as long as you guys stick together, as long as you stay loyal with each other, you will persevere. You will make it. Even though a lot of them did die, but they do have a legacy, because Clementine is their legacy in a sense. But yeah, what a good video. Thank you, Jake Reinhardt, again for suggesting the video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.